Hello and welcome back to an Introduction to Scratch 3.0 Part 3. My name is Laura and today we're going to learn how to draw in Scratch using Turtle Graphics. Imagine a turtle that's also a robot that also has a pen. Now tell the robot turtle to draw a line. That is Turtle Graphics. Really. Turtle Graphics were introduced in 1996 as part of the Logo programming language, where it was imagined that a robotic turtle could be programmed to leave a pen trail as it moves to create shapes and pictures. But we won't need a robotic turtle to start drawing in Scratch. All we need is a sprite. So go to Scratch, create a brand new project, and when you're ready, I will meet you in the inside project view. In order to get started drawing with our sprite, we need to give our sprite a pen. So head on over to the block palette over there, and at the very bottom of the screen in the far left bottom corner, you'll see this nice blue box. When you hover your mouse over top of it, it should say Add Extension. When you click on it, it'll bring you to the extension Library. The one, of course, we're going to select today is the Pen tool, right at the top middle of the screen there. If you click on it, you'll see that it will be added to your block palette right at the very bottom underneath My Blocks. In the pen category, we have a couple of different green blocks that we can choose from, and we're going to go over some of the most important ones. The first one we're going to look at is the Erase All block. Now this does just as it says, it will erase everything that you've drawn on the stage area. The next ones we're going to look at are the Pen Down and the Pen Up blocks. Now, just like how you would write in real life, by pressing a pen onto a piece of paper, these blocks work very similarly with the stage area. The next ones we're going to look at are the Set Pen Size To block and the Set Pen Color To block. The Set Pen Size block allows you to change the thickness of your pen by placing a different number in the input space. The next block is the Set Pen Color block, and this of course controls what color your pen line will be. And you can adjust that color by clicking at the colored input space and using the sliders to get whatever color you would prefer. And the last set of blocks that we're going to look at are the Change Pen Size By block and the Change Pen Color By block. Now these of course can change the color and the pen size as it draws to create a gradual change from, say, very thin line to a thick line or a blue line to a red line. So to begin drawing, we're going to create two scripts today. The first one will allow us to draw, and the second one will allow us to erase what we have drawn. So let's start with our draw script by heading over to the events category and choosing a hat block. Let's use the When Green Flag Clicked block. And next, we need to make sure our pen is pressed down onto the stage so our sprite can begin drawing. So let's go to the Pen category and select the Pen Down block and add it right underneath the hat block. So our sprite can now press the pen down onto the stage area, but it doesn't do it much good if it's not actually moving and pulling the pen behind it. So we now need to go to the Motions category and grab that Move 10 Steps block and add it to the bottom of our script. So this will allow our sprite to press the pen down and then draw a line as it moves across the stage. And for a more dramatic effect, let's just bump up that number to, say, 50. And remember, we can also go to that pen category and choose a Set Pen Size To block and maybe increase the thickness of that line. We can also, of course, add the Set Pen Color To block if you would like, and select a color that you would like to start drawing in. So with this very basic script, we will be telling our sprite to draw a line of about 50 steps. Let's give it a try. So as you can see, our sprite has now drawn a line behind it as it has moved, but you're probably thinking it'd be nice if we could see that line a little bit clearer. And you can do this by hiding your sprite. In the sprite pane, just below the stage area, we have the Show and Hide buttons, and feel free to hide your sprite to have a better view of what you're actually drawing on the stage. If you'd like to keep your sprite in view to see where your pen is currently, you can definitely do so, but it might be nice to decrease the size of your sprite so that you can see the line a little bit clearer. Before we go further, we need to create that erase script. So let's go back to the events category and grab a hat block. If we use the green flag block again, it would probably cancel out our draw script. So let's choose a different hat block. I'm going to pick the When Space Key Pressed block. And this of course means that my new script will begin whenever I press the spacebar on my keyboard. So the next block in our erase script should probably be the Pen Up block. So let's go back to the pen category and make sure we're lifting the pen off of the stage area before we start erasing anything. So let's grab the pen up block, and next, of course, we'll grab the erase all block and add that underneath. Okay, this is a basic erase script, so when I press my space key on my keyboard, it will now erase everything that we've drawn. But you'll probably notice that after clicking the green button a couple of times, our sprite just continues to move off the stage until it gets stuck against the wall. And even when I erase everything, it doesn't reset us to the center of the screen. So in order to do that, we need to have another motion block that will tell our sprite to return to the center of the stage. So let's go to the motions category. And we're going to take the go to XY block and add it right underneath our erase script. The stage area in Scratch works on the coordinate plane, which means that it uses an x-axis and a y-axis to give you certain coordinates that will tell you and Scratch where your sprites currently are on the screen. But the only coordinates we need to know today are the coordinates at the center of the screen, where the x-axis and the y-axis cross. And the value of that is 0, 0. So in my go to XY block, I'm going to change the values there to 0, 0. And so then when I activate this script, it will bring my sprite back to the center of the stage area so that I can begin drawing all over again. Now it's important to note that our sprite will only draw in the direction that it is currently facing, which is why turn blocks in the motions category come in handy. So let's grab one of those turn blocks and maybe add it underneath our draw script. So when we run this script, our sprite will start drawing in a different direction. And by changing the angle of your script, you can begin to draw some basic shapes. For example, a square has a 90-degree angle in its corners. So if I were to change this turn block to 90 degrees and then run these scripts again, you'll see that eventually I can draw a square. And you can do the same thing by changing the degrees to, say, 120 in order to draw a triangle. And remember, you can increase the length of the lines by changing the input space in the move steps block and begin to draw a larger triangle. But of course, it's a little labor intensive to sit here and click this green flag multiple times in order to complete a shape. And this is where a repeat loop really comes in handy. So let's clear everything on the stage and head over to the control category to grab a repeat loop. Let's add the repeat loop to our draw script. We're going to move it over top of our draw script so that the move blocks nest inside of the repeat loop. And now we need to decide what kind of shape we're going to draw. If I would like my script to draw a triangle by only clicking on it once, I would have to change the repeat input to 3 to account for the 3 sides that I would like my sprite to draw, like so. However, if I would like to draw a square, I'd have to change the input space in the repeat loop to 4 so that it moves 100 steps 4 times, but also makes those 90-degree turns for the corners. Just like this. So now that we've mastered basic shapes, let's draw something a little more complicated, such as a spiral. What we need our sprite to start doing is to start at a fixed point and then start slowly wrapping its way outwards to create that spiral shape. And this is where we need to find a way to modify our move block in order to tell it to start increasing the length of the lines that it's drawing. And we can do that with the variables category. So we're going to create a variable that will tell our move block to start increasing in length. So let's click Make a Variable at the top of the variables category and give our variable a name. Again, because we'd like it to start increasing the line length, I'm going to call it Increase and click OK. And now at the top of the variables category, you'll see your new increase block has appeared. And just beside it, we have a blue check mark. This refers to the counter that has now appeared on your stage area. And by checking and unchecking this box, you can choose whether to hide or show the increase counter. The counter is telling you the current value of your variable. There's a couple things you can do with the counter. You can click and drag it around the stage to place it wherever you'd like. You can right-click on it and choose a different readout from this drop-down menu, such as the large readout or the slider, but let's leave it at the normal readout for now. So the first thing we have to do is to determine what kind of value we want our variable to have. And we can set this by using the set variable block here. Let's click and drag that to our script And just as we have all the other set blocks at the top of our script, we're going to add this one just beneath it above the repeat loop. And now we have the option of changing the value of our variable by entering a different number in this input space. But let's leave it at 0, because for our spiral, we want our pen to start very small and then to start increasing as it moves outwards. So we want it to start at its lowest point, which would be 0. Next, we need to include our variable into our script. And we're going to do that by clicking and dragging it and nesting it in the move block. By doing this, we're connecting our increase variable to our move block and telling our move block to only move the amount specified by our increase variable. Right now it's not moving much at all because we have it set to 0. And this is where the change variable block comes into play. So we're going to click and drag that to our repeat loop and add it maybe just at the bottom of all of those motion blocks. Right now it's at change increase by 1, but let's bump that up to make it a little bit more dramatic. Let's say 10. And for a more impressive spiral that starts out very small and then works its way out, we need to change how many repetitions this script will run. So right now it's set to 4, which is a very small number. Let's set it to 30. So our draw script will now do the following. It will set the increase at the very low value of 0 to start off our spiral, and then do the following 30 times. It will move the amount indicated by the increase, which at the beginning will be 0, turn 90 degrees, and then change the increase by 10. And then by restarting the repeat loop, it will move 10 steps, because that's what it's been changed to, turn 90 degrees, and then be increased again by 10. So let's give this a try by clicking that green button. There you go, we've drawn our square spiral. And as you can see in the top of the stage area where the increase counter is, you'll see the final value of our variable as it has increased from 0. And if you'd like, you can even change the shape that you're drawing by modifying the turn degrees block. For example, you could draw a triangular spiral or a circular spiral. So there you go. Feel free to play around with all the different numbers in here to create the spirals that you would like to make. And remember, you can even make them more exciting by going back to that pen category and adding in the change pen color block to your repeat loop. And also, why not, the change pen size block to your repeat loop. And just by adding those blocks and running through your script again, you can create some very colorful spirals. So we've learned how to draw shapes and we've learned how to draw spirals, but wouldn't it be nice if we could just click on one block and have Scratch know to draw a certain shape or spiral? And this is where custom blocks comes in handy. You can find custom blocks in the My Blocks category of the block palette, and right now you don't see anything there because we haven't created any. Creating your own blocks in Scratch can really benefit your scripts by making them more efficient, especially when you plan on using the same script multiple times. For example, if we wanted to draw 6 different squares that were all different sizes, we would have to create 6 different scripts. But by using a custom block, you only need to create that script once to tell Scratch what a square is, and then you can modify it to draw any other kind of square that you'd like. So click on that button that says Make a Block underneath My Blocks, and you'll be brought to this window. Now we'll have our new block right there at the top in the middle, and we can give that block a name. So just as we did before, we're going to name this block after the action that is going to be triggering. And in this case, whenever we click this block, we want Scratch to draw a square. So let's type in square. So just underneath our main block here, we have 3 different options that we can add to it. The first 2 are inputs, and the next one is just a label. We're going to choose the first one in this list, add an input, number, or text. We're adding this input area to give us the ability to change the size of our square by increasing or decreasing the side length. So we're going to name this input side. Once you've done so, click OK at the bottom of the window. And you'll see that in the My Blocks category, we have our square block appear right underneath that Make a Block button. And on our script area, you will find the Define Square Side block that's quite large and is currently overlapping some of my other scripts. So make sure you find a nice blank area in your script area by moving some things around and giving yourself some space in which to start building this script. So as you can tell, this Define Square block is a hat block because of the curved edges on the top of it. And so what we need to do is to help Scratch define what our new custom block is by building a script below it. And that way, when we use our square block anywhere in the script area or in a script of its own, it should hopefully draw whatever is attached to this define hat block. And because we wanted to draw a square, now is when we would build the script for a square that we learned near the beginning of this video. So let's do that now. However, we're not going to change the number in the move block. Instead, we need to make sure that this connects with our square block. Just as we did with the spiral by placing the variable inside of the move block, we're going to take the side value from the define hat block and nest it right into the move block. So this is telling our script to only move the number indicated by the side input value, which of course corresponds to our square block up here, which currently has nothing in its input value. But if I were to type in the number 50 into that square block and now run the script by clicking on this square block, you will see that our sprite has now drawn a square with each side equaling 50 steps. And you can add any number of square blocks onto your script area or in your future scripts in order to draw squares of many different sizes. But now it's time to go to the next level. We're going to create a new block that will allow our sprite to use our square block in order to draw more intricate patterns. So let's go back to the Make a Block button and click on it. And we're going to name this block Pattern because we would like it to draw a pattern whenever it is used. Just as we did before, we're going to add an input, just that first option on the list there. And we're going to name this input area Side 2, just to distinguish it from the other side. Yes. Then we're going to click OK at the bottom of the window, and you see that it has appeared in our script area and also at the top of our My Blocks category. So now we need to tell our sprite what a pattern is so that it can draw it using the pattern block here. And the first thing we're going to need, of course, just like we always have, is the pen down block. So let's add it underneath our hat block there. Let's also grab that set pen size block just to make sure we're starting at the right thickness of line. Next, because patterns repeat multiple times, we're going to need a repeat loop from the control category. So we're going to add a repeat loop to our pen blocks there and change the input to a higher number. And because we want our square to start creating this pattern, let's grab a square block from the My Blocks category and add it into our repeat loop. Right now, our pattern script would probably just draw a square over and over and over again in the same spot. So in order for it to turn slightly to start drawing in a new location, we want a turn block from the motions category. So grab one of the turn blocks from the motions category and add it to your repeat loop underneath the square. And just as we did before with our motion blocks, to connect them to the square and our variable, we need to connect this square block to our new pattern block. So we're going to grab the input from our pattern block in the define hat block and nest it inside of our square block. And now, by putting in a different number into our brand new pattern block, such as 50, we can click on our pattern block and have our sprite draw us a repeating square pattern. Let's see how it does. You can change the pattern, of course, by modifying any part of your script that you'd like, and very simply, you can add another pattern block or as many pattern blocks as you'd like to your script area and enter different side lengths into the input area. Before we go today, we're going to learn one more script that's going to kind of tie together everything that we've learned so far. And this is by including a variable into our pattern script here. Now this variable is going to allow us to directly control the line length in our pattern to make it increase or decrease as it's drawing. So we're going to go create a variable, and just as we did before, we're also going to name this variable side, but we're going to call it side 3 to distinguish it. Let's leave it at for all sprites and we'll say OK. And you'll see it's appeared in the variables category as well as the counter on the stage area for side 3. Now the next thing we need to do is include the set block into our pattern script, just like we did with our spiral. So we're going to grab the set variable block and add it just below the pen blocks and above the repeat loop. And you'll notice that the set block is currently set to our spiral variable, which was increase. So make sure you choose side 3 from that little drop-down menu in the block. So we know that our square is the meat and potatoes of our pattern, and we know that the side lengths of our square is controlled by the input space of our pattern blocks. But we want our variable to now control the side lengths, so we need to take the side 3 variable block and exchange it with the side 2 block in the square block. So just swap those out there. So by doing that, we've now connected our variable block here to our square block, and our variable block will now be the one that controls the side lengths. However, it would still be nice to use the input space in our pattern blocks. So let's take that side 2 block and we're going to nest that inside of our variable block right there. So now the side length of the square is determined by the variable, which is now determined by whatever number we put into the pattern blocks. However, the main reason we included this variable is so that we could manipulate the pattern as it's being drawn. So we're going to go over to the counter on the stage area where it says side 3, right click on it, choose the slider layout, and from here we're going to be able to adjust those side lengths. So even though we might start our pattern at 50, we'll be using the slider to increase or decrease the size of the pattern as it's being drawn. So let's try it out. Let's clear everything on the stage area, click the pattern block, and then use the slider. So it's starting at 50, and by moving the slider up, I can start to gradually increase the size of the squares. And I could do the exact same thing in the reverse if I tried this pattern again. Maybe with the 100 block to start at the top and slowly decrease it. Very nice. So there you have it. You have mastered Turtle graphics in Scratch by using variables, custom blocks, and the pen extension. So that concludes part 3 of this Introduction to Scratch 3.0. Next time, we're going to be building scripts that will let our sprites move around the stage area and sense other sprites. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in part 4.